Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the When Wrestling Mattered podcast. With me, your host Alex, and my co-host and brother John. How you doing, John? All right?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Fantastic. So this week we're reviewing the Monday Nitro from the 19th of October, 1998. John, before we start getting into details of everything, what did you feel about this show?
Thoroughly enjoyable 2 hours of programming. I watched this twice. The first time I just watched it without taking notes, and it flew by. And then I went back and made my notes for it, and I was quite happy watching it the second time. So yeah, it's been one of the better episodes, I would say. Oh, and what I will say is, actually, for a go-home show, it was very good.
Yeah, it definitely, it did everything it needed to do. And actually, there was a lot of stuff like we were talking about on the last podcast. We were talking a lot about how, especially at the end, we were saying there weren't really any standout matches. There wasn't really anything that was like a really fun watch. This week, I felt like almost every match, actually. There was probably one or two exceptions that were just there, but most of them were actually like, oh, I'm actually enjoying watching the wrestling.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. So it starts off, and it's a recap of Bischoff and the Horsemen. I have, I think, quite a lot to say about the Bischoff Horseman storyline going through this episode. But it was fine. The thing that got me about this is that this is like a recap of a load of talking, right? It's just people talking at each other. But over the top of it is this hard-hitting, like, rock and roll music, like, while they're like, get out of my building. No, you get out of my building.
This is their building. No, I want them out of here. No,
It didn't really work. But that was fine. And then immediately it started off. Nitro opened, and they were just talking about how, which I didn't know this. I mean, I probably did know this, but they keep really hammering home the fact that Minneapolis, Minnesota, is where Ric Flair was born and raised. In my brain, he's the Carolinas. I don't know where in Carolina, but
I actually have written here exactly that. That when they started going on about how he was born and raised here, I was like, huh? Because I've actually got written here, Charlotte. Question mark? What do you mean? I thought he was a Charlotte boy. I thought he was.
Well, that's the thing. I'm guessing
Carolina. That's what they always say.
Yeah, from Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah,
that's what's associated with Ric Flair, like Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yeah, that's what confused me, because I found myself suddenly sitting up and going, Minnesota? What is it? But I mean, I didn't go back and clarify that. I don't see why they'd lie about it. But yeah. That just threw me off a bit, because I was like, Ric Flair? Surely that's wrong. But no, who knows?
It was just funny, because out of every single person that they could have done this with, like, I can't think of another wrestler from this time that I would have questioned. Like, almost 90% of them, if they'd said, oh, this guy's from here, I would have just gone, okay, without questioning it. But because it was Ric Flair, I was like, what are we talking about? He's from Charlotte.
I mean, can I just say I'm slightly more confused, because I've just Googled it, and it says he was born in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, it does say he went to the University of Minnesota, but that's not born and raised. You say raised, maybe?
I thought that it was weird that out of everything off last week's show that you could have started off highlighting. Bear in mind, this is a go-home show for Halloween Havoc. It seems weird to me that the thing that you would focus on is the angle that is not being contested at Halloween Havoc. Like you've got all these other matches. You've got Sting and the Outsiders and the Steiners and Hogan Warrior, and then the thing that you're focusing on at the start of the show is Eric Bischoff and Ric Flair, who aren't having a match at the pay-per-view.
I'm guessing there must be something happening at the pay-per-view. I know there's not a match, but there must be something where there's an angle to carry on this, because otherwise I don't know why you're focusing so much on it in the build-up to Halloween Havoc.
Saturn versus Kenny Chaos.
Yes.
I felt like this was Saturn's best match. Yeah.
I agree.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. And I tell you what,
Me too.
the crowd is hot as fuck at the start of this show. They are mega into everything. Like every little fucking move, the crowd go mental for. They do tie off later on in the show. In a really unfortunate moment, the crowd completely die. But for this at the start of this show, it's like every time one of them hits a clothesline or a body slam, the crowd go mental.
Yeah, the first thing I wrote was Saturn's out. Great pop. Like, this is the best reaction he's got. And I was a bit like, oh, is this going to be Saturn? As it turns out, it was just everyone for about the first hour of the show. Yeah. Also, Kenny Chaos. Let's talk about Kenny Chaos very quickly. He's a tag team with, I can't even remember the second guy's name. He did nothing pretty much. I don't remember him really appearing on TV. I don't really remember High Voltage as a tag team from this point on much. Kenny Chaos got a very, very short-lived kind of push. But I'll be honest, having seen his performance here, I kind of understand it. He did well, not just in his wrestling moves, but there were moments here where he was working the crowd and getting heat. And I was like, oh, he's not just doing moves. He's actually using a bit of psychology and, getting the crowd to react to him. I loved it. I mean, what I'm saying is, if you have Kenny Chaos on your roster, I don't know why you're wasting it on people like, what's his name, Torborg. But yeah, this was a perfectly decent match. I think it probably was Saturn's best match.
I quite like the fact that Kenny Chaos switched the momentum around by dumping Saturn out of the ring. When he first did it, I thought, oh, fuck, that was dangerous. And actually, I rewatched it and I went, actually, it was completely safe. Saturn had the ropes. Like, it was, you know what I mean? Like, it was all with it. They were all in control of where they were going and stuff. But I quite like the fact that the big, strong, muscular guy sort of got momentum by just dumping Saturn from over the top rope to the outside. I was actually really impressed by Chaos when he hit his gut wrench power bomb.
Yeah, that was a lovely move.
I really liked it. I was blown away, actually. It was a really nice move.
No, I agree. I'll be honest. If Kenny Chaos was going to get a push and he needed a finisher, if I was the person backstage, I'd be like, "Can your finisher be a gut wrench powerbomb, please?" It looks good and it differentiates you. I mean, I don't think he ever won a match with it, but it should.
Chaos hits a badly executed but still somehow cool gorilla press on Saturn.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
Where he can't. I think it's harder than he thinks it's going to be to get Saturn up in the air. And he sort of drops him, and Saturn sort of falls with a spin, which makes it look really cool. What I did like afterwards was Kenny Chaos does that thing that you do, like, if you're sort of a bloke and you go, oh, I'll pick that up. Don't worry, everyone. I've got this. And someone's like, oh, are you sure? That's quite heavy. Be careful. And you're like, no, it's fine. Don't be silly. If you go to pick that up and then suddenly it's heavier than you thought it was going to be, and you're like, oh, I can't actually carry that, inevitably you're going to put it down and then hold one of your arms and go, ooh, my elbow twinged then. Otherwise, I totally would have carried that. If my elbow hadn't suddenly hurt out of nowhere, I totally would have carried that. I was like, fair play, mate. That's what I'd have done as well. Saturn fights up and gets thrown into the turnbuckles. But he turns Chaos around and does his multiple kicks in the corner thing. I'm not sure if I like that.
Oh, I quite liked them. I thought they were good.
What, the sort of high kicks? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I think it's something different.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. I just don't know. They don't ever look like they connect properly. I'm never quite sure if I like them or not. I don't hate them, but I always watch them and think, I don't know. They just don't. There's something about them I'm not sure about. Oh yeah, and then so Saturn then hits his sort of finishing combination, really, which I thought was quite cool. So he does his overhead belly to belly suplex, decapitate a clothesline, and then he hits a Falcon's arrow. And what I really liked, this happened a couple of times tonight. So he just stands up, signs to the crowd that he's going to hit the Death Valley Driver, and then just walks over and picks Chaos up and hits the Death Valley Driver and beats him.
Yeah.
I quite liked it.
Yeah. It doesn't all have to be out of nowhere. Like, you can sometimes just be like, I'm about to hit my move on this person. I hit my move on this person. I've beaten them. It doesn't make perfect sense as well. He just hits his like combination that he thinks is his moves. Like, he hits a big belly to belly, a lariat, Falcon's arrow. Oh, well, I'll be able to hit him on my DVD now. And then he does.
Playing tough. I think they all go hand in hand.
Can't have one without the other. Here's a pickup. Could be it is. The Death Valley's running. Fans know it, and we do too. It's over.
Can I do a John side note? I hate the Falcons arrow.
Do you?
I've just got a dislike for that move. I don't like it. Don't know why.
Oh, I like the Falcons arrow. It's one of my favourites.
Does nothing for me. It's the move of the mid-carder. I would never see a star hit a Falcons arrow. It's just I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's just something innate in me. I don't like the Falcons arrow. Never have. Don't think I ever will. If I see someone do it, I groan.
The thing that I don't like about the fact, because I really like the Falcons arrow, but it's always quite upset me that it's most well known for being Bob Holly's finish. That really annoys me.
Well, that might be it. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the thing that's embedded in my brain. Bob Holly's fucking finish. Yeah. But no, this was a good opening match. What I do want to just quickly say is, I think over the last probably this whole run of episodes, I think I've been a bit harsh on Saturn, right? Because he's come out of the biggest match of his career. Maybe, I don't have an extensive run of his career, but I think, in terms of the full brawl match with Raven, it was his biggest thing. And since then, he's just kind of trod water in a mix of sometimes good matches, sometimes mediocre matches, nothing special. But what I will say, Saturn is one of my guys. I love Saturn. I think he's got a great moveset. Wish there was more to what he could. I wish more happened with him, both in this company and when he went to the WWF. Because I just love Saturn. I think he's great.
Did you notice the little commentator thing at the end? Zabisco says,
Chaos will learn the hard way. You delay, you pay. I just made that up.
and I died, right? And Tenay goes,
Thank you.
Mr. Improv. Off the cuff.
At least I don't write my stuff down, Professor.
The next part is Tenay with the fans again.
Where do they find these fans, for God's sake? Two of the fans, maybe they feed them these lines. Because the question they're doing with this week is, what did you think of last week when Bischoff got kicked out of the building? Right? And two of the fans said it was one of the greatest nights of Nitro ever. Don't say that. It wasn't. It wasn't very good. But they're lucky we weren't there. We'd have buried it. We'd have been like, oh, that's not great. Why can't Ric Flair fight his own battles? He looks like a bit of a pussy to me. Getting his rich mate to... I hope the same thing doesn't happen tonight, where he gets someone with power and influence to fight his battles for him.
Well, I have to say, I didn't see the twist come in where Bruce Wirtz MacArthur became the leader of the Four Horsemen, but...
Yeah, I want to see I'd like to see Goldberg versus the MacArthur.
Everybody that's been put in front of me, I've destroyed.
Now, with all due respect, stand aside.
Halloween Havoc.
Six-time world champion.
Hey, gotta stop.
I have a skybox, a rather large one with 10 beautiful women in it.
Woo! And tonight, I make an example. You're next!
Hey, no.
I think that could be a good match. Yeah, well, we'll get into that later. This wasn't very...
this Mike Tenay with the fans, they obviously do feed them these lines because they got progressively worse. The first guy, I think, managed to do a good enough job sticking to the script he'd been given, if being a little robotic in how he delivered it. The second guy got lost about halfway through his first sentence and then sort of did a good enough job ad-libbing towards the end. And the third guy was so bad, Mike Tenay put a mic near his face, and then the third guy just stands up and goes, Nitro was gay.
That was one of the greatest Nitros ever.
And then it's a Scott Steiner pre-recorded promo segment again, which it's the same as the one that he did a couple of weeks ago before Judy Bagwell's debut, but with different portions of the edited footage. It was full of good lines. He calls himself the workhorse, the showstopper, the stallion, and the thoroughbred. And then he says, if there's anyone who looks better than me, I'd like to see him because he doesn't exist. That made me laugh. Oh, and also he says,
That largest arm in the world is gonna pound you. I'm the one that the people came to see, not you, because you ain't good enough.
I just like the literalness of Scott Steiner's insults, like he's just saying exactly how he sees it. Like there's no poetry to anything.
I think both Steiner brothers are like this. Rick's had a couple of moments like this where he's just said something very bluntly and very matter of fact, like "I'm gonna beat you in that ring because I'll pin your shoulders to the mat 1, 2, 3." Just like describing what he's doing.
Yeah, it's literally just describing. That's it. That's why I like.
It's a bit like Donald Trump, where like he'll make an observation, then explain the observation. I saw a horse. It was a lovely horse. I said to myself, "That's a lovely horse." Is that kind of thing. I'm going to beat you, and I know I'm going to beat you because I always beat you because I beat you.
So yeah, and then I think that was it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's fun because it's Scott Steiner. It's edited, so it's snappy and funny.
Yeah, I liked it. The thing that got me after this promo was it went back to the commentators, and I don't know which one it was. I think it was probably Tony Schiavone, because they start talking about what happened last week with Chucky. But one of them says the line, "What role will Chucky play at Halloween Havoc?"
That's Mike Tenay says that. So Tony Schiavone's running down what happened last week with Chucky. And to be fair, I felt like Tony was being a bit too, like, giving it a bit too much credence himself. Like, rather than just being like this nonsense last week. You know what I mean? Like, he was. But then as soon as Mike Tenay cut him off and said, "Well, yeah, and what role will Chucky play at Halloween Havoc?" It was like, it wasn't that long, but there was like a split-second hesitation where Tony Schiavone just turned and looked straight at him.
Speaking of the Bride of Chucky, the one question we've been talking about all week is about Chucky and his confrontation with Rick Steiner. What does that all mean?
I don't know, Tony, but what role would Chucky play at Halloween Havoc?
The dummy?
We're just promoting child's play. Come on.
Yeah. I thought maybe that's what it was. I thought maybe they had to have it mentioned twice. So they just went, show a replay, we'll never mention it again.
Maybe.
One replay and then never mention it again. Oh, and that's another thing. They go from Chucky, right? They go from fucking Chucky and this fiasco, and then they cut straight to a Goldberg DDP promo package, right?
Yeah.
So it goes from them talking about a toy and whether or not this toy is going to interfere in the Steiner Brothers match at the pay-per-view, and then it cuts straight to
Goldberg. What a force.
and it sort of goes through this thing where it's like this really over-the-top, like overly dramatic movie trailer voiceover guy. And I was like, it kind of is like tonal whiplash.
Very truly unstoppable.
Pro wrestling, mate.
It just made me laugh.
This is why people like pro wrestling. You can go from one to the other and everyone just smiles and nods and gets on with it. This was a perfectly fine promo with the DDP Goldberg thing. They're doing well building up, I think. The only thing that I thought was a bit that made me laugh in this line was, again, afterwards they do the promo and the commentators are talking about it and they're saying, hey, if anyone can beat Goldberg, it's DDP. You know, he's got this real mindset of not giving up and all that stuff. I'm glad you're hitting all that stuff. But Tony Schiavone says the line, DDP will give 110%. I know realistically that's not possible. What are you doing? Just everyone knows. You're just saying he'll give everything he can plus more. Like, you don't need to like correct yourself. What I just said was stupid, so I'll just correct myself very quickly.
People think I can't do maths. I better tell it.
Like, we don't care about that. We know what you mean. It's like he's worried analogy and metaphor will go over the wrestling fans' heads.
Give it 110%. I know realistically that's not possible.
La raza.
El Dandy, Psychosis, Hector Garza, and Damien versus La Parca, Ciclope, Chavo Guerrero, and Liz Mark.
Immediately,
Yeah.
the LWO music hits, and he goes, La raza. Larry Zbyszko says, what does that mean? Mike Tenay says, well, it's La raza, the race. And he goes, the race? And he goes, yeah, like the race. And then Larry Zbyszko goes, whoa, the Mexicans?
La Raza is like
The race.
all the Mexicans?
Correct.
Yes, because they're Mexican, Larry. Yeah, I don't. Larry Zbyszko always seems to have an issue with the lucha libre stuff.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand it. He doesn't like it.
Well, I'll bring it up now as we're talking about it. Tenay is having none of it this week, right? At the end of the match, where Parker does his bit where he hits his own team with the chair,
Mm.
and Tenay goes, "What the hell was all that about? He hit his own man with a chair." And Zbyszko goes, "Yeah, I thought he'd done that, but I couldn't really tell." And Tenay goes, "It's pretty easy to tell. All the LWO guys are wearing LWO t-shirts."
Yeah,
Like,
I know it's that. Yeah.
Like, stop it! Like you're taking a piss now. Like you can clearly tell.
Yeah. You know who's on what team, Larry? Come on, stop being a dick. They're not 6'4" white guys. How can I tell? They're all the same. I immediately have issues with this because it's luchadors versus the LWO.
Yes.
And isn't the whole point of the mission statement for the LWO is they keep putting us in matches against each other and they're trying to hold us down and we shouldn't allow this to happen? Surely what you should do is walk out there and immediately say, right, we're not fighting. You're all joining the LWO. We're not letting this happen. We're going backstage and we're going to go speak to Eric Bischoff or, join up and then we'll attack the NWO later or something. But no, they have a match.
This match, I had sort of mixed feelings about. Because this match made me feel bad about how harsh I'd been on last week's match. Because I realised that last week's match wasn't sloppy. It's just how these luchador matches are. There were a few parts of this match that I really liked. But yeah, the problem with it is that I had these major underlying issues with how it didn't make any sense.
And when we get to the end of the match, I'm going to rant about how the ending doesn't make sense.
Even the way it starts is bizarre, right? So La Parker gets into the ring after the LWO come out first. La Parker gets into the ring with his team. He puts his chair in the middle of the ring and does a little dance, right?
Yep.
And then Damien gets on the chair and tries to copy his dance, and La Parker Inzaguri kicks him. And the bump that Damien took for it, where he sort of rolls backwards off the chair over La Parker, I really liked. But then I assumed that would be the start of the match, but it wasn't. They just both backed off to their corners and then started the match like a normal match. I was like, what the fuck?
It's one of those things where you look at a match like this and they don't give enough time for beats and moments. It's almost the opposite of today, where I think wrestlers, because they want to give the beat so long, because they really want people to notice what they're doing, it doesn't come across as real. Like, actually, I'm just going to kick this guy in the head.
Yeah.
Like, there has to be a nice middle ground between sloppiness and not engaging with the crowd properly, and this is complete theatre and not actually a fight.
So it was a weird way to start the match. And then immediately, Lismark Jr. gets into the ring, charges across the ring, goes for a flying drop kick, and just misses Damien. Just, like it literally just like charges across, completely misses the drop kick. It's a really weird thing to do, to just grab him by the head and pick him back up. Yeah. Like he's now laying on the ground. Like, why wouldn't you do something to him on the ground? Like, you're a wrestler, right? Like, why wouldn't you get him in a hold or try and pin him? Like, do something. Yeah. Like, he's just thrown himself across the ring and landed on his own back. And then, like, the first thing Damien does is pick him up and chop him. I'm like, why didn't you just kick him while he was on the ground? It's really strange. Damien whips him off into the ropes, and Lismark hits a really nice tilt-a-whirl backbreaker.
Lismark looked much better this week.
Then La Parker gets tagged in, and he doesn't get a massive pop getting into the ring, but he's so good. He gets into the ring to no reaction, and then 5 seconds later has done his dance, and everyone's cheering.
Going to be, I guess, El Dandy or Hector Garza once they figure out who's going to represent their four-man team.
El Dandy hits some really hard chops. Can I just say about El Dandy, right? Ain't it really weird that he's a luchador, and yet he looks like his name should be like Chuck?
Yeah.
Like he looks like he should live on a trailer park somewhere, like, and sell crystal meth, and his name should be like Chuck. You know what I mean? Like Chuck White. Yeah. Like, it's so strange. But it's just weird. Like, I was watching him in this match, and I was like, if as a child his gimmick had been him wearing like denim dungarees and a straw hat.
Yeah, you totally buy it. Yeah,
I would have been like, oh
buy it.
yeah, like this guy's just some guy from the Midwest, like who,
Yeah.
like I wouldn't look at him and go, why have they got this Mexican dressed up as a farmer?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, old Lee Dandyson.
So now Cyclope and Hector Garza get in the ring. Hector Garza charges across the ring while Cyclope is still getting through the ropes and drop kicks him directly into Laparca's legs because Laparca hasn't even had time to get out of the ring yet because everything's so fucking like 100 miles an hour. And Garza hits a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. That's tilt-a-whirl number 2. Hector Garza hits one on Cyclope. Oh, and then all of the LWO jump in all at once and just start kicking the crap out of Cyclope. Like they just jump in and start bum rushing.
Yeah, start wailing, throwing the boots in, don't they? Yeah.
I like that. I like that spot.
Yeah, that was a good spot.
I'm going to defend Larry Zbyszko here, right?
Mm.
Because if you think about these matches, they don't make any fucking sense. Because people can not tag in, and they do tag in, and so like there's no rules about tagging in and out. You can just get in and out the ring whenever you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why do they tag in at all? Because sometimes they tag in. Like,
yeah, I agree. That doesn't make. Yeah, no, I agree. That doesn't make sense.
Or whatever. Yeah. But it was also so when all the LWO guys run in and start kicking the shit out of this dude, the other team tried to get into the ring to stop him, and the referee goes over and does his whole standard American wrestling. No, you can't get in the ring. Like, and I was like, hang on a minute. Why are you stopping them? Like, surely the rules are they can all just get in the ring if they want and start beating the shit out of everyone. Like, why are you stopping them? The team, like, it seems like this is the problem when you take all the rules out of wrestling. Hector Garza drop kicks Cyclope into his own corner. He then just slides out of the ring. Chavo gets in, hits one move, and then drop kicks him into his own corner. And I'm like, this is the problem when it's like there are no rules. It's like, well, you may as well kick them into their corner because people can just come in willy-nilly and break stuff up and interfere and do whatever they want anyway. So now, like, half the psychology of a tag match is gone. Like, there's no point in getting heat. Like, there's no point in cutting the ring off and getting heat. Well, because his partner can just take over at any time anyway. Lismark and Psychosis jump into the ring, run at each other. Clearly, no one knows what anyone's going to do. And then Psychosis just drop kicks Lismark Jr. in the chest. Bounces him off the rope. And then Lismark hits, for the third of the match, a Twisted Tilt-a-Whirl backbreaker for the third one of the match. Psychosis and Damien are thrown out. Lismark and Cyclope do stereo dives, get a decent reaction. Oh, and then they did a spot that I really didn't like. Is
this the one where they constantly missed each other?
Everyone missed spot. I hated it.
Yeah.
I thought it was shit. Like,
I thought it was shit. It made them look all like idiots, doesn't it? It makes everyone look fucking stupid. Laparca is a beautiful. I think this was the movie kind of one he beat Super Callow with a few weeks ago, like a corkscrew plancher, but he does it to the outside.
Tony Schiavone, what did he commentate it as?
I don't know. What did he say?
A flying body attack.
It's just if he sees one person smash into another, it's a flying body attack.
Everyone missed on Neville! The flying body attack over the top!
Spot of the match. And actually made me go, holy shit, Lismark Jr. isn't a piece of dog shit, right? Cyclope grabs Psychosis in a heart attack position. And then Lismark Jr., from the ring apron, leaps to the top rope, gets on the top rope, and then he doesn't immediately bounce off. He jumps up and sort of steadies himself for a split second on the top rope, and then hits a picture-perfect missile drop kick into essentially what turned out to be into a sidewalk slam.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And my only problem with it was it should have been the finish.
Yeah, absolutely it should have been the
finish. When they did that move, I was totally expecting it to be the 3 count. No, apparently not. Yeah, they tag team him for a bit, and then while they're throwing him into the corner, Laparca slides into the ring with his chair, blasts both of them over the head. Psychosis covers Cyclope while Laparca dances next to him on the chair.
Just to confirm for the people, in case they get confused like Larry Zbyszko, Laparca attacks his own team.
From the top, speaking of Psychosis, and the LWO comes away with a win.
What was the story there? La Parka, the chairman of World Championship Wrestling, just took out his own man.
I thought I saw that, but I wasn't sure. He did. He hit his own guy.
It's easy to identify them. LWO members, all four, wearing the LWO t-shirts.
So La Parka turns and seemingly is turned on his team and is now with the LWO. Well, this is what annoyed me, because here comes Eddie Guerrero, okay, and he comes into the ring and he starts cutting a promo about the LWO and La Parka, and he said La Parka showed he has what it takes to be in the LWO, and my immediate thought was, what, turning on his fellow luchadors? That's what he's just done. He's turned his back on his teammates for his own self-interest. Isn't that completely antithetical to the LWO? You want people who are going to be loyal to the LWO and the Latinos. That's the whole reason you've made the LWO. For a second, I thought, oh no, they're going to be clever here. I can't remember this. There must be a turn here where he says, like, La Parka, you've shown your true colours. I know exactly, what you've done here today has made it very clear in my head what we need to do. And then they would have kicked the shit out of him and been like, no, like you don't get to turn on your own fellow. And then, they let the other two guys in or something. I thought it was going to be that. But no, they let him in the LWO because what? He turns on his own people.
Exactly that. Like I was saying, like when he said, like, you've shown me you've got what it takes to be in the LWO, I was like, what? Someone who's happy to try and murder Mexican people?
Yeah. Yeah, stabbing his fellow luchadors in the back for personal gain. It's like that. No, that's completely antithetical.
And also, I will say this as well. I normally love La Parka's theatrics, and I was well on board with him because all the other LWO guys were stood on the ring posts, like being completely serious. And Eddie Guerrero is cutting a promo, and La Parka is sort of prancing around next to him, which made me laugh. But then he grabbed Eddie Guerrero and was trying to pull him around, and then he started doing this little on the floor bow to him. He's not meant to be a cult leader. Why are you bowing to him? Why are you like going, oh, Eddie Guerrero, you're you know what I mean? Like, surely he's essentially a union rep. Like, really, like, I don't, this is a Mexican workers union, surely, the LWO.
Yeah, it's essentially the Mike Lynch of
yeah.
Mexico.
We're fighting for workplace justice.
Of the economical situation.
What else are we to do? Are we to plead? Are we to beg?
And you bring these wrestlers in, and you pay them peanuts, and then you treat them with disrespect.
To have to beg the employers for a decent living.
Canyon versus Scott Putski.
Scott Putski. So out comes Canyon, and Canyon's great. Who's better than Canyon? No one is. Genuinely, he's great. So Canyon comes out and he does his Who's Better Than Canyon. It's early days. Everyone says nobody. Enough people say nobody where he doesn't really give a bad reaction to it. He just goes, you people just don't get it. Like it's, there's just this crowd. And I like how it's going to build up into everyone doing it and him getting very angry. And he just says,
Play Obi-Wan Jabroni's music so I can get another win under my belt.
A great insult, but also a bizarre Star Wars reference out of nowhere.
It would be a great insult if your opponent had some sort of look where they looked like they might be in Star Wars. Like if he had a cowl or something, I would understand. If it was like a wrestler who that worked on.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work.
Yeah, or if he's about to have an argument with Ric Flair or JJ, like an older guy maybe. And then Scott Putski comes out. Scott Putski is the quintessential WCW jobber. Like when I think of jobbers, or like, they're on the roster but they're there to lose every week to make other people look good, I think of Scott Putski. He's the first person, it's the name that comes to mind. The first person that comes to mind is Scott Putski. And that's exactly what happens in this story. So Scott Putski's dad is Ivan Putski, who is, before my time, I know nothing about him. I'm sure he's won some regional championships and stuff. The one great line here was Tony Schiavone saying to Larry Zbyszko, hey, you knew his dad, didn't you? And Larry Zbyszko says, yeah, I beat him many, many times.
He says, Scott Putski just needs time to develop. And I don't know if this is just the 90s thing, because I know if you go back in time, like people look older or younger. I was looking at Scott Putski going, sorry, isn't he about 35? I don't
Yeah, it must be.
Like a young man.
He must be. Yeah, no, I was thinking that. Sometimes they do this where they go, oh, yeah, this young up-and-coming wrestler. And you look and you go, he's a 20-year vet. What do you mean? Like,
the match was okay. I would say it's maybe probably not the worst match on the card, but in terms of a competitive match, maybe.
This match was nothing at all. Canyon did some cool moves.
He hit a tilt-a-whirl slam. That's not before.
He hit a cool sort of fireman's carry, dropped him on the ring apron. And again, the same thing happens in this match where Scott Putski calls for his finish. He calls for the Polish hammer, which I'm not sure people understood what it was, which I guess is just a double axe handle off the ropes. Canyon counters, and then he calls for the flatliner, which is I think one of the coolest calls for a finish ever. He just puts the hand across like he's, like a flat line. It's just a really cool, like, it looks cool. It makes sense with a move name. It looks great. He calls for the flatliner. He hits the flatliner. He wins.
Has videotaped more matches and studied them more than any other man. There's a flatliner, and that's one Diamond Dallas Page. A point we need to talk about a little bit later on because this match is over. And the Canyon with the combination flapjack and the flatliner beats Scott Putski, but he earned it. Scott Putski has talked about the young man and experience had come to fight.
Next segment was a Scott Steiner promo. Tony Schiavone, for no reason, starts having a go at Mike Tenay and then immediately backtracks on it. Mike Tenay is talking about the Steiner brothers match at Halloween Havoc, and he starts saying, the WCW executive committee have done a really good job getting this match booked and blah, blah. And then Tony Schiavone really, venomously says, I've never worked with a commentator that spends so much of his time glad-handing the WCW executive committee. And Mike Tenay goes...
Yes, he does, doesn't he? Yes.
Yeah. And Mike Tenay goes...
Well, hats off to the WCW Executive Committee because we're going to finally get it settled, this matter between the Steiner brothers, this Sunday at Halloween Havoc. Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner, most importantly of all, no disqualification.
Well, you glad hand the Executive Committee more than any announcer I've ever heard.
What's wrong with that?
Well, you just do, and I agree with you.
Larry said, Tony Schiavone, this is again, no, seriously, I agree. And I was like, why did you bring it up in the first fucking place?
This is like what he does with this is the best match of all time. Well, not the best match. He's going to get 110%. Well, not 110%. It's like, God, you love the... he probably just threw it in as a little joke. And then when Mike was like, well, what is wrong with that? Like, saying they've done a good job. He's probably like, that's a good point, actually. There's not really anything wrong with it.
So Scott Steiner comes out. He cuts his sort of standard Scott Steiner sort of sexual innuendo promo.
He does. And my favourite bit was when he said about his freaks. And he said, I've got a freak on my left. And he looks to his right. And then he says, I've got a freak to my right. And looks to his left. He cut a perfectly good promo. It's a Scott Steiner promo. He just talks about the women and then he starts slagging off the crowd and they boo.
Can I just say, the only line that I thought was really funny, he said just before Rick Steiner came out, right? He said a line and he said it in a way like he was insulting them, but the actual content of the sentence that he said wasn't insulting at all. In fact, it was very pleasant. He said, if there are any Minnesota Vikings back there, why don't you get your asses out here to the ring and I'll show you some respect?
Which is odd because there are a couple of Minnesota Vikings backstage, aren't there?
Well, there are. But my
Which
point
makes me think...
like the way he said it was like he was having a go at them. But actually what he's saying is if you come out here, I'll show you respect. So if you come out here, I'll say, nice to meet you. Congratulations on your excellent season. But the way he said it was like, if there are any Minnesota Vikings back there, then just get your ass out here to the ring and I'll show you some respect. Like the way he said it was like he was not going to show them respect, but he hadn't actually said anything.
Yeah, so it was like, it's very, very kind of him, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what a nice... I can just imagine the two. That's probably why they didn't come out. If he'd said, like, oh, you come out here right now, I'll kick your asses, they'd have been like, right, let's get out there. But both of those black guys were just stood back there and they saw the nice white man on television going, if you come out here, I'll show you respect. And they went, oh, what a nice man.
Oh, yeah.
Scott Steiner.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to go out there now. I'll wait till he comes backstage. We'll chat to him then. Yeah. Scott Steiner's a lovely bloke, isn't he?
I'll wait till we're in private. He might want me to sign a hat for him or something.
But yeah, and then Rick Steiner comes out. Yeah. He immediately says that the Vikings are undefeated, which gets a pop. He does make a nice little comment where he talks about Scott Steiner and he says, and it plays into the whole big brother, little brother dynamic that's been going on, where he says, you ain't nothing but little Scotty Steiner to me. It's just a nice line. I think it plays into that idea of big brother, little brother still. Yeah, so Rick Steiner comes to the ring. Scott Steiner bails out of the ring, and Rick Steiner's in there basically just saying, come in here. Scott Steiner says, no, these people don't deserve to have me get in the ring with you, basically. And Rick Steiner says, hey, there's nothing between us. You can get in this ring right now. And Scott Steiner starts to move up to the ring, and actually people start cheering.
I thought it was actually possibly the spot of the night. When Scott Steiner gets into the ring, he takes his sunglasses off, the crowd start hyping up, they start building up, you can hear the anticipation. And as he gets into the ring, he goes,
first off, Minnesota sucks! You suck! But if I'm gonna fight you, this is gonna be a fair fight, right? Hell no!
Forget about a fair fight!
It was a great spot, and it got such a good reaction. I have to say that was my spot of the night. And actually, you know what? I think this whole segment, I got a feeling watching this segment that I haven't got yet in all of these podcasts. This is why wrestling works so much. Like, genuinely, this is the first time I felt it since, and I was like, no wonder I liked this growing up. Because here you had this perfect moment where this little shithill brother, who's this big, strong, badass guy, but he's trying to hide from his big brother who just wants to kick the shit out of him because he's been an arsehole. And then finally they get in the ring with each other. Is it going to be a fair fight? Hell no. And then he lamps him, and the crowd goes wild. What I will say is that obviously these two then have a bit of a ruck, and Scott Steiner gets the upper hand when he low blows Rick Steiner. What I will say is this: we were just talking about how in the lucha match you can't get heat if there are no rules. Rick Steiner's already said this won't be a fair fight. So actually, Scott Steiner did nothing wrong here. But yeah, so then Scott Steiner goes to get a chair to lamp Rick Steiner, but he doesn't get the opportunity to do it because here comes Buff Bagwell, who gets. I'll stick by what I said last week. I understand why you want to keep Buff Bagwell heel at the minute because he works well, and the Scott Steiner Buff Bagwell duo works wonders. But I think this would make people look and go, this could be a big face for us in the future.
They do a thing later on in the show where they cut back to this moment.
Yes, they do.
Buff Bagwell taking the t-shirt off and throwing it into the crowd like I'm leaving the NWO.
Yeah, so they obviously did a recap where they obviously realised they didn't show this, but yeah, they show a flashback to this moment where Buff Bagwell rips off the NWO shirt and throws it into the crowd, and it's like he's officially left the NWO, and and again, it got a good reaction. Next was a very small, and I've only got one line to talk about this because the Nitro girls are out dancing, and Larry Zbyszko does the line,
just angels dancing too close to the ring.
And there's a bit of silence, and then Tony Schiavone goes,
absolutely, Larry Zbyszko.
What does that mean?
A prime setup for a Tony Schiavone, what the fuck are you talking about moment? And he let it go.
yeah, exactly. It was a Tony Schiavone like, am I going to call this out? And he just went, no, not now. Absolutely, Larry.
They cut to Goldberg signing t-shirts or hats or something. The 7 or 8 children around him are going.
Many of his fans, Goldberg and WCW together. Trick or Treat for UNICEF is upcoming, and we want you to be a part of it. Call that 800.
Don't know if they actually got, people at UNICEF are helping. Like, it sounded like they were starving to death, these people. Like put some fucking energy into it. Yeah, that was it. There's a UNICEF thing. I only mentioned that because later on it is used as an excuse why Goldberg isn't here when he is here. So match 4 was Fit Finlay versus the British Bulldog.
Yep.
I quite liked it. It was all right. It was basic, but everything they did was quite hard hitting and impactful. I quite liked it. It was a lot of body slams and shoulder tackles, but they were actually looked like they were impacting each other, and it was all right.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really written anything for this match. Finlay dominated. Everything was a bit hard hitting and looked okay. I have to say, for Bulldog, who got this injury for his back, because we mentioned this in the very first episode where he wrestled Barbarian, and it was like the night after he had his bad back injury. The fact he's still going out there and doing it at the moment, even to the level he is pretty impressive. But yeah, this match was perfectly good. Fit Finlay and Bulldog. Nothing really happens until there's a ref bump. At which point Alex Wright comes out, continuing the who's the best European wrestler thing. He hits a lovely top rope drop kick onto the Bulldog, which I thought was going to be the finish, but then Finlay picks up Bulldog and hits him with a... He usually does a tombstone, but this is more of a kind of a falling forward slam and gets the pin. Fit Finlay then attacks Alex Wright and hits him with that kind of fireman's carry rollover move and leaves. The only problem with this feud is I just don't know who... Like, Bulldog, I think, is the main proper baby face. Then you have Alex Wright, who's the main proper heel. And then Fit Finlay's just a tweener who attacks everyone and is, I don't care, I'm just going to do everything. But then I don't think he should be the one standing tall 6 days before a pay-per-view, which I guess there's going to be a payoff to. I don't know. The obvious match here would be a three-way match between them at the pay-per-view, but I don't know if that actually happens.
Cool. Well, the next segment is Mean Gene Okerlund calling out Chris Jericho to the entranceway for an interview. Chris Jericho's awesome. Immediately calls him Gene Mean because he's realised that just reversing the Gene and the Mean makes him irritating. He's beaten Greenberg 3 times, just changed the name Goldberg to Greenberg, realised that's also irritating.
Jericho is currently the television champion.
Yeah.
The TV belt, is it the best third level design belt? Well, I look at it and it's not that impressive, but it's impressive enough that I look at it and go, yes, you're the third best level champion and you deserve to hold that belt. I look at that and I think, can I see a Fit Finlay or a Jericho at this stage in his career or whatever holding this belt? Like, it's impressive and simultaneously not impressive at the same time.
Jericho calls out Goldberg.
Yes.
And it specifically said that Goldberg is at a UNICEF convention and isn't here tonight. And Jericho isn't buying it. He's saying, no, this is bullshit. Like, that he's clearly here. I know he's here. It does at some point say to Ralphus, like, you saw him, right? But it's insisted that he's not here. And in the end, Diamond Dallas Page comes out. And Diamond Dallas Page does a line.
Yo, Jericho.
And it falls so flat. Like, I've never heard a line that no one reacted to so much. It was crazy.
In fairness to that, it's meant to be a bad line. The next thing DDP says is hey, Jericho, nothing. That's one of your mannerisms, is what he says. As in, Jericho always says these stupid things like Gene Mean and stuff. He's doing it back to him. But
it also didn't look great because no one reacted to it.
No, I agree. It's also not a mannerism. I know I'm being pedantic. It's not a mannerism. If anything, it's one of Jericho's sort of turns of phrase. It's one of
That's your verbiage.
Yeah, verbiage. It's not a mannerism, but that's just me being pedantic for DDP. Jericho's facials here are great. He looks genuinely like as soon as DDP rocks up, he looks like he's shitting himself. Also, Ralphus. I don't know if Ralphus is just a stupid old man, but his face, like he just is staring ahead. Right, this whole thing before DDP rocks up, he's just staring ahead gormlessly, just like no thoughts going on behind the eyes, just straight ahead.
Yeah, Jericho makes like some sort of comment about like how Ralphus should be between them or something. Ralphus maybe takes like a shuffle step forward, right? And DDP freaks out, right? He starts going like, "Hey, get the fuck away from me!" Like he's like nowhere near him. In fact, when DDP reaches across to kick him, like to push him away with his foot, he has to lean as far as he can to get the tips of his toes on Ralphus's gut and give him a shove. Like I was like, this guy was nowhere near you, dude. Why? And then a minute later, he goes, "Don't come near me again, dude." I was like, "He's not come near you once, bro." Like, I don't know why you're freaking out. This guy's come nowhere near you.
Bottom line is, son, you got a get that fat old man out of my face. Back up, Jack. Back up. Don't come near me again, man.
Well, I mean, this sets it up where DDP says, "Let's have a match." And it gets arranged that night is going to be DDP versus Jericho, which Jericho is immediately like, "What? No, we can't have a match. No, this is a terrible, terrible idea."
Tokyo Magnum versus
Tokyo
Raph.
Magnum.
I have very limited memories of Tokyo Magnum, apart from that he was a very talented guy that never did anything. He was just the guy that danced and got his head kicked in by massive guys.
So as soon as Tokyo Magnum came out, I popped because one, it's a great name, and I'm not entirely sure what he's going for. Is he meant to be a stripper? Is he meant to be like I'm not sure. He's got the mask and he's got the fancy suit and immediately takes it off. He's got the little bow tie on, so he's meant to be like a Chip and Dale kind of thing. I'm not sure. I know he has a very, very short run in WCW. It's only a few months. It's pretty much where this is the only time we would have seen Tokyo Magnum. Because after we saw him, I did research on him because I was like, holy crap, I wonder if he's still going and all this stuff. Tokyo Magnum, yeah, he only had maybe 6 months in WCW.
Oh, really?
He for a little while he gets aligned with Alex Wright and Disco Inferno, like the Dancing Fools, but he never was because he went to join them and they said you can join if you win a match, which he lost, and then he had like 2 more Saturday night matches and then he got released. He literally was there for not very long at all. But yeah, he's only 51. He's still wrestling. 51. He retired for a couple of years in 2006 with a bad eye injury, and then he's made a comeback. Yeah, no, I love when he came out. I was like, yay! And then Raph came out, and I went, oh, I know what's going to happen, but
yeah. Well,
yeah, I was happy.
Raph came out to the wrong music again.
Well, it's the wrong music, but it's the music he came out to last week. So maybe they are just changing it.
Yeah, like doing a weird Mankind thing where he has different beginning and ending music. It's very strange.
Yeah.
So Tokyo Magnum versus Wrath. There's literally nothing to say about this. Tokyo Magnum comes out. Wrath crushes him in about 90 seconds. And then he leaves the ring. And as he's leaving the ring, the announcers say, "Oh, by the way, he's wrestling Meng at the pay-per-view." And I was like, again, can't we not let him fight? Can we not do something? This week, I kind of get it more because there's a lot more to get through on the show. But I was just like, oh, "Come on, man!" Literally, Raph walks out, crushes a jobber, and leaves. That was
maybe, but then
the Ming.
Yeah, but then I don't know why you couldn't have had, say, I don't know. He comes out to beat Tokyo Magnum, and Ming jumps him, and so it's just a fight instead of he doesn't need to beat another jobber. He you need to establish Meng versus Wrath.
The Dancing Fools, Disco Inferno, and Alex Wright And the match initially is meant to be versus Super Callow and Silver King.
Yep.
But Super Callow and Silver King come to the ring, and just before they get into the ring, they start motioning to the back. And the Horsemen, Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit, come out accompanied by Arn Anderson.
Yes.
So yeah, there's I quite like this match. There were a few things that I thought were weird about it. First of all, why is this Alex Wright and Disco Inferno when they're both in individual feuds right now? I didn't necessarily hate that because I know we've talked before about wrestlers sort of, you know, like storylines overlapping and stuff. It just seemed like an odd thing to throw Disco and Alex Wright into a
match that they're going to lose.
It's just odd. Like you haven't got two other dudes that could wrestle this match.
Yeah.
Like can we not have this be Hugh Morris and Barry Darso? They lost to the Wolfpack 2 weeks ago. Can't we just have this be them? I don't know.
Can't it be Silver King and whoever you come out with?
Super Callow, yeah.
Can't it be them? They're literally out there.
Yeah, it's very strange.
I suppose the idea is that the Horsemen aren't actually allowed to wrestle, or Bischoff won't let them. So like they've done them a solid and willingly subbed out. But there must have been another couple of luchadors you could have done that with. Yeah, I agree. It's almost like they were like, well, we need Disco and Wright on the show because they do get reactions. So I guess we'll just have them in this match.
I will also say this, that in a vacuum, if someone said to me, would you rather see the Horsemen versus two random jobbers or the Horsemen versus Disco and Alex Wright, I'd definitely pick that one.
Yeah, I agree.
In a vacuum, it's a better match. It just seemed weird that you would do it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So Super Callow and Silver King start gesturing that you know they've got a surprise and someone else is coming, kind of thing, pointing up the ramp. And then out come the Horsemen to a good ovation.
Hey, I know that music. Hey, somebody's in the house.
Horsemen are in the house.
I like how Benoit and Malenko kind of have matching gear. I like it when teams have matching gear, but they're not exactly like they're not both trunks and they're not both trousers. They're close enough that they look like a team, but far enough away they're distinct.
Yeah.
Arn Anderson, as they were coming down the ramp, I was willing Arn Anderson to shake both the luchadors by the hands in a kind of a, and he did it, and it was just him that did it in a kind of a business kind of transaction thing, and I was like, that's the perfect role for Arn Anderson. Like he needs to be doing that. Whereas the wrestlers were just focused. I have a couple of things to say. One, they mentioned that Benoit's just coming back from an injury, so this might be why he's done nothing. In which case, fair enough. But I don't know, maybe we've missed that. But I mean, someone else needed to wrestle then instead of just being background guys. It's nice the Horsemen actually doing something.
I thought it was weird. I have to say, like, considering last week we're talking a lot about how the main storyline is a Ric Flair storyline, I thought it was somewhat telling that this week the Horsemen and Ric Flair are almost entirely separate, like in their segments. Like they almost have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, the match was weird. Malenko is awesome, but he sold a lot, which is weird for like a Horseman comeback match.
Yeah.
You'd think that if you're going to do a storyline where, oh, you guys can't wrestle for weeks and weeks, that the night they come back and wrestle, they're just going to look mega impressive and dominate the opposition. And you would think that would be the logical way to do it. But actually, Malenko kind of gets, like, the Dancing Fools kind of get the heat on Malenko, which is weird.
Yeah.
But what's even weirder is because as it went on, when Benoit got tagged in, I actually thought, oh, this could actually end up being quite a decent little match. But I was anticipating it going 10, 15 minutes. It actually went about 7, if that, like maybe 5. And like, yeah, Benoit got in, he chopped Disco really hard a few times. He did the whole blowing his nose on him thing, which is disgusting. And then
the crowd loved it though.
They did love it, but it's disgusting. And then he literally turned around. Disco went for a clothesline, caught him in the crippler crossface. The ending seemed really weird because Alex Wright technically broke up the hold. But
Dean Malenko just got there, didn't he? But also, it never really makes sense when people do the whole breakup pins or breakup submissions in wrestling. When someone will just run over and like kick someone in the back while they're making a cover, and it's like he's still covering him. It's not like you kicking me in the back has stopped me holding this guy's shoulders down. Like the idea that someone does that at 2.5, so the ref just goes, "Oh, I guess that you're not pinning him anymore." No, when Benoit came in the ring and he did all his stuff, you could tell he's going to be a massive star. I mean, he's already a big star in '98, but when you look at him and what he's doing, you can see future world champion. Like the crowd are into him. He has a great look. He's intense. Literally had everything. You look at him, and you go, "Geez, yeah." Like it's not a surprise that he was one of the breakout guys. We forgot to mention while this is going on, Bischoff comes out to the announce desk, kicks out Mike Tenay, and he's there basically slagging off the Horseman. He doesn't say anything of note particularly. It's just the generic kind of stuff. And at the end of the match, Arn Anderson notices that he's there, and he points at him, and they have a bit of a pointing match back and forth.
You want. Because you're not getting paid. You are in breach of contract. Ask Ric Flair. He knows all about it.
This is something they're going to have to settle somewhere else, ladies and gentlemen. But the war of the words continues. We've got some angry folks here on Nitro, and the Horsemen are here.
The PWI 500 is where they list the 500 best wrestlers at current time, obviously. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to read you a list. 1991, Hulk Hogan. 1992, Sting. 1993 and 4, Bret Hart. 1995, Diesel. 1996, Shawn Michaels. I'm missing out 1997. 1998, Stone Cold. 1999, Stone Cold. Triple H, Kurt Angle, Rob Van Dam, Brock Lesnar, Benoit, Batista, Cena, Orton, Triple H, AJ Styles. A list of who's who of the greatest wrestlers of all time. The way they judge this list is by various things. Matches you have, championships you've won, how important you are to the promotion, the feuds you've been having. Who do you think the wrestler is in 1997? Dean Malenko.
That's insane.
Dean Malenko was the PWI #1 wrestler. My point is this. This is like them ranking the best wrestlers. And honestly, I think if you look through that list, I think every single one they've got pretty much right there. If you look at the years that those people are the best wrestler there, I go, yeah, makes perfect sense. 1997, Dean Malenko. And then, but for the people listening to this and thinking I'm being like, oh my God, no, I love Dean Malenko. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. He is amazing, genuinely amazing. I could watch 1,000 Dean Malenko matches in a row and I would never get bored. He is crisp, he is smart, he has great psychology, everything. I think he deserves to be there. Like this isn't a slander. I think but it's just stark because all those people are people that you would go down in wrestling as some of the greatest of all time, WWF champions, WCW champions, blah 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 blah. And then there's Dean Malenko, who at his height was a 4-time cruiserweight champion, US champion, at best. But yeah, I'm glad. I'm good on him. Stone Cold's third in that year. Isn't that incredible? Like Stone Cold 1997, third. Dean Malenko's second. First rather. Insane. That's all I want to say. Dean Malenko currently is suffering with Parkinson's, which is a shame. But he's one of my favourite wrestlers of all time.
Self-high five.
The next match is Jericho versus DDP.
It is. The match starts. I quite like the fact that Jericho immediately starts telling the ref that Page is pulling his hair.
Yep.
And in the very next spot, pulls Page's hair.
Yep, that was amazing.
I thought that was quite funny. And then darts out of the ring to avoid Page's retaliation. There was a really nice sequence, actually. Jericho does the old, I don't know what you'd call this spot, but it's one of my favourite spots in wrestling. You throw a knee into someone's stomach, and then when they bend over, you put your leg on the back of their head, and then they throw their head back and flip you over so you land on your feet.
Yes.
I don't know what you'd call that. It's like a Fameasser counter. Jericho lands on his feet, and then they go straight into the Page right-left clothesline spot.
Yeah.
Duck the right, take the left clothesline. The whole match was just fun in general, actually. Jericho does his 1 foot on the chest pin.
Yeah, which is always a great look.
I love that spot. I think it's a really good one. Page hits his fantastic and replicated in the new WWE games right-left discus clothesline spot. Jericho hits a lovely belly. Diamond Dallas Page hits a lovely belly-to-back suplex. But yeah, Jericho hits a. So DDP, manages to take him down. Then Jericho hits a jawbreaker into a clothesline, straight into a lion salt combination. Really, really cool. And then Jericho gets DDP set up for a vertical suplex. And then DDP hits a really nice crippler crossface counter.
Yeah, it was almost like
no one knows how to call it, and he obviously can't put him in the crippler crossface.
Not allow himself to be beaten.
Great move. It was spectacular 1-2.
Yes, it's like a single arm DDT face slam thing.
And then he puts him in the Lion Tamer. And I have to say, the way that Diamond Dallas Page sells trying to counter the Lion Tamer, I'm marked out for like a motherfucker. Because Jericho is like, he's trying to turn him, and Diamond Dallas Page is jerking from side to side, grabbing his ankles like he's trying to stop him from turning him over.
Yeah.
And then Page sort of arches his back and leans sideways, and Jericho does a really good bump, sort of as if he's selling Page throwing him off. It was really good, really, really good. At which point he throws his hands up, signaling for the Diamond Cutter. Now, at this point, Goldberg charges the ring and spears the shit out of Chris Jericho.
Yes.
Why wasn't he wearing a UNICEF t-shirt?
Because he took it off.
I know, fuck that. Like, he should have been wearing a UNICEF hat or a UNICEF t-shirt or something. He should have been wearing something as if he's just arrived there from a UNICEF gig and now he's running out to the ring.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because I was just like, he just runs out and I'm like, you pussy. Like, surely if he was in the back earlier and Mean Gene was like, no, Goldberg's at a UNICEF convention, he surely should have gone straight to James J. Dillon's office and said, no, I'm here. I'll have a match with Jericho. It's fine.
Yeah.
He's like, no, fuck that.
I know what you mean. He should have had something to indicate he had maybe just rushed there from this UNICEF thing. I agree.
So he spears the shit out of Jericho. The referee immediately calls for a DQ. He goes to pick Jericho up for the jackhammer. DDP grabs Jericho's feet, spins him around, hits the Diamond Cutter, and then it degenerates into basically 15 refs in the ring, DDP and Goldberg trying to get at each other.
Yeah. So I really like the match. I like the finish, actually. I think it works well. I remember watching this when I was like 12, and when this finish happened, I remember turning to you and saying, DDP is going to win the title at Halloween Havoc. Otherwise, he would have won the TV title here. In my brain, I was like, clearly, this means he's going to win the title because this is how they don't have him win the TV title. You know what I mean? Clearly, that's not how it worked.
In there! Referees are in there! They're not going to wait 6 days! They can't hold him back!
Oh, this is a volatile situation between Page and Goldberg.
Oh, I wish we were in Vegas. I wish we were there now. We'll be back!
The next segment is Scott Hall in a bar again. I don't know if it's this one or the next one, but I know Scott Hall is like playing a philandering drunk, but every woman at the bar is hanging on every word that he says. But I don't know if it's this one or the next one, but there's one part where he's literally staggering around and nearly falling over onto these women. and every woman there is like grinning ear to ear and like sort of, oh, Scott, like, you know what I mean? Like they're all like that. Every single one of them. Even though he's playing like a messy drunk, every woman there is moist for Scott Hall. Which made me laugh. Cruiserweight title match, Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Billy Kidman. Can I just say that considering Rey Mysterio Jr. is a megastar, and even at this point was a megastar. I mean, I know he hadn't been built up into a name or anything, but the fact that they were announcing him coming back to challenge for the Cruiserweight title as a big deal with no build-up shows that he had a name. You know what I mean?
They're already referring to him as a cruiserweight legend.
Well, there you are. So my point is this: why does he come out to terrible generic music with no fanfare?
2nd of November, Monday, November 2nd, is Rey Mysterio Jr.
He's back.
Comes out great, cruiserweight great, stellar performer in our sport.
And he just comes out with his robe on and his hood up. No pyro, no reaction from the crowd, no build up to his entrance, nothing. He just walks out.
See, this is the weird thing, because they were building this up. I mean, the way the commentators have mentioned this earlier on in the night, him coming back is a big deal. They keep saying this is like, he's a legend, former champion, he's coming off this knee injury, he's going straight into a cruiserweight title match. This is what WWF does better, and has always done better. If they were like, no, this is going to be a big deal, the crowd's already been hot. The crowd were dead for this match, by the way. Surely, before Rey Mysterio comes out, you say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from this career-threatening knee injury, okay? Coming back, former Cruiserweight champion Rey Mysterio Jr., really pump it up. And then say to Rey Mysterio, can you go out there and with a bit of energy? And play up to the crowd, because he didn't help either. He just strolls out you're coming back.
I have to say this as well, mind. If I was booking this show, I probably wouldn't put this show on directly after the Goldberg Diamond Dallas Page segment.
No, I agree with that. Yeah,
you've just killed the crowd. You've just had two of your biggest stars in the whole company, one of them in a match, and the other one come out for a big spear jackhammer spot. Is it a good idea now to put on a match that you're going to book to start slow because it's going to be a time limit draw?
Maybe the crowd just knackered themselves out, because the one person who's, well, not one person, there have been loads of people who have been over, but I'd say pretty consistently, Billy Kidman has been getting great reactions every single week he's been involved in having matches. And even him, the crowd are tepid on.
Thunder will be coming to the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia in Roanoke, Virginia, Thursday, November 5th. At the Roanoke Civic Center. Tickets available at the Civic Center box office and Ticketmaster in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Thursday, November 19th. And the Allen County Memorial Coliseum. Tickets to the ticket office and Ticketmaster. Coming to Indiana, coming to the great Shenandoah Valley of Virginia.
Isn't that where your deadbeat relatives live?
I have a lot of relatives there. I have a lot of friends there. Yes, I do.
I've actually put in my notes here, this should be a banger, and it wasn't. But not because it was just because if the crowd had been reacting to stuff, maybe it would have been.
Oh, I mean, I've nothing bad to say about the in-ring action. These two guys were great.
It was a slow start, but the chain wrestling was really nice. Rey Mysterio hits a knee to the gut, and then he does again. It's the Fameasser reverse spot, but instead of doing the flip over, he goes straight into a head scissors like that. A couple of minutes later, after that, Billy Kidman hits his own head scissors, the ankle scissors over the top rope. I liked it 50-50 booking. I thought that was quite nice. There's a part where Billy Kidman and Rey seem to get lost in a whip into the corner, and Billy Kidman just really awkwardly forearms him. Billy Kidman does an up and over in the corner. Rey hits a spin wheel kick. Really nice crossbody off the top rope by Rey Mysterio. Billy Kidman with a beautiful wheelbarrow suplex. Rey manages to head scissors Billy Kidman to the outside and hit an over the top rope sort of somersault plancher. Billy Kidman hits his sit-out powerbomb and his corner clothesline.
I don't know if it's before or after this. Rey Mysterio hits a bizarre move.
Ray uses Kidman's arm to slam himself.
Yeah.
Again, Mysterio up on top, drives the arm, tries to pull it away from the shoulder. Mysterio up on top, Mysterio up on top, Mysterio up on top.
It's like he's getting Kidman down into an armbar position, but he just falls back and necks himself.
Well, he sort of stands over his arm, then throws himself up in the air, and I think he's meant to be slamming Kidman's head into the floor. I think, but it just looks like Mysterio throws himself up and then slams himself down. And I just did it was one of those things where I think even the commentators I'm not really sure what was supposed to happen there.
Ray knocks Billy Kidman off the top rope, then hits a Hurricane Rana, then he hits an Unprettier.
Mysterio drives him head first to the mat.
That'll change your thinking.
I'm not so sure who hit first that time. 1, 2. Mysterio came away favoring.
Now you see the frustration, very evident as he pounds on the mat.
Rey Mysterio goes to the top rope and goes to do a top rope nothing. Billy Kidman hits a brutal-looking drop kick as a counter to the top rope nothing. And then as they roll backwards on the mat, the bell rings, and it is a time limit draw. I have to say, besides the fact that the crowd sucked, the match was pretty good, and I really liked the time limit draw.
I completely agree. I thought this was great booking, to be honest, because you have a newly established cruiserweight champion who's getting great reactions, and you want to establish him as being competent and good and all that stuff. But you have a returning Rey Mysterio, who's a cruiserweight legend, who's just coming back from an injury. So you can play this up as, yes, it's a draw. So well done for Kidman. And it raises more questions, doesn't it? Yeah, Kidman was able to survive 10 minutes or whatever it was. But when Mysterio starts getting back into ring shape, is he just going to beat Kidman? You could tell that story. Or is Kidman going to have to rise to the challenge? And is he able to beat Mysterio? I thought this was perfect booking as a little taster of you. If you want to see this again in the future, we're going to tell it again in the future. So I thought I liked this match. It's a shame the crowd sort of died after the last segment because they never really regain it after that. To be honest, there are moments there are moments, but they started off so hot. I think they burnt themselves out, and that's a shame.
Mean Gene is in the ring, and he calls out the mayor of the city. I can't remember her name.
Minnesota. Mayor. I didn't write it down.
I didn't write down her name, but she's the mayor of Minnesota. And initially she gets booed, but then by the time she gets in the ring, people are chanting her name. So she's obviously a somewhat divisive politician.
Yeah. Although by the end of the segment, she had nothing but fans. So, yeah. I mean...
Well, mate, this is what good booking does for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
She gets in the ring. Initially, I mean, she was always shrill, but initially she was very shrill. I thought, oh dear, this is not going to go well.
I want the crowd to welcome two exceptional Minnesotans, great fans of everybody in this audience, Kirby Puckett and John Randall.
Yeah.
So she calls out these two American sports people who I don't care about. And then almost instantaneously calls out Ric Flair. So they're not in the ring more than 5 seconds before she goes, oh, and also, the guy who was born here and raised here, apparently, Ric Flair.
I want you to know that in Minneapolis and in the state of Minnesota, we have a whole lot of hometown favorites. And I want to introduce to the crowd one of our all-time favorites, Ric Flair.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's here.
Well, she calls him out, and then as he's coming out, it's Mean Gene that says, "Oh, and Ric Flair's coming out, and of course he's born and raised here in Minnesota." So I guess even the people there in Minnesota don't know that that's what apparently is. I mean, according to Wikipedia, it's from Tennessee, but but they have to like even remind the crowd, "Hey, Ric Flair was born and raised here."
The fact that even the people in the crowd are probably like, "Fucking Charlotte, isn't it?"
Yeah, Charlotte.
He's not born here. What are you talking about?
Carolinas, I don't know. That was Ric Flair comes out and he gets a good pop.
Flair comes out. He says almost nothing. Immediately, Bischoff comes out. And he's on his way down to the ring, and then the camera just catches him getting smashed by a full glass of beer or water or something. So he gets in the ring, he's soaked. That's the second week in a row. He was actually soaked when he was shouting at Bruce McCarthy last week as well.
Yeah, when he got whacked when he got walked through the crowd, I think.
Bischoff gets in the ring. He's doing the same thing again. I don't want this guy in my building. This is my building. And she's going, no, this is my town. So it's essentially the same thing as last week.
Yeah.
I don't want it. This is my building. No, this is my skybox. No, this is my building. No, this is my town.
Yeah. The mayor,
go ahead.
The mayor starts yelling at him, saying, very happily, no, this is my town. You don't get to decide this. And the crowd are with her. They're cheering her, which is fine. And then the two baseball players step forward and kind of square up to Bischoff, which gets a big reaction as well, which I'm perfectly fine with. Flair's in the background, jumping up and down, pointing and laughing and stuff. And then after these baseball players step forward, a cop steps forward who starts like... who he says to Bischoff, he basically says, look, you know what this town's like, and you know what our jails are like. You don't want to spend time in there. Also, you've got unpaid warrants that you need to pay. And Bischoff's like, I don't have unpaid warrants. I've already paid them. I don't have unpaid warrants. And this cop just keeps saying to him, no, you need to leave now. I'll give you like 10 minutes to get out of the building or like the city or wherever it is. And that's it. This cop keeps getting confused because he's holding a microphone, but someone else is also putting a microphone to the side of his head, and he keeps looking to the left where this microphone is, and he doesn't just do it once. I think he's like, oh, which microphone am I meant to be talking into? And he just keeps glancing to his left, like, oh, what's that? But even he's getting like a decent pop because he's standing up to Bischoff. This is all fine.
But I thought the most telling moment, because it gave me flashbacks of last week, was Kirby Puckett and John Randall stood in front of Eric Bischoff with Ric Flair stood behind them going, jump on Kirby one time, jump on John Randall one time. And I was like, dude, like, can you have one fucking segment where you don't seem like the bully's best mate?
It's a Viking trend.
Time to play ball. Jump on John Randall one time. Come on, jump. Come on, jump on Kirby one time. Let me tell you, Mr. Bishop.
Like, just hanging around behind more important people, shouting and going, yeah, what you going to do now, huh? Now that I've got someone here who's actually fucking tough, what are you going to do? I was like, come on, man.
Yeah, so we will get to that. So the segment hasn't finished yet, because Bischoff then walks and leaves the building, and it's like a tracking shot where he's walking through the corridors. It's not quite a Daredevil or Old Boy shot. It's just him walking. As he's walking down the corridor, you see a woman running away in front of him. And then as he opens the door, you see the same woman hiding in a doorway, pointing, directing him where he needs to go. And then he obviously goes left and sees his car, and his car's now being towed. Okay, and that's the segment. His car's now being towed. He obviously has got warrants he hasn't paid, and his car gets towed off, and he's running after it, and everyone's laughing at Eric Bischoff. Isn't that great? Ha ha ha! Brilliant. I have an issue with this whole storyline, and you basically just summed up in what you said, okay? And I'm not only is the storyline not great in terms of what they're trying to do, but I think even if they are doing this storyline, they're doing it badly, okay? So the storyline here is Eric Bischoff is the big bad authority figure, okay? Ric Flair is meeting that energy with his own ability to say, I've got friends in high places and I can trump your authority in almost anything, okay? That's not in of itself a bad story, okay? Depending on what you're doing with it. The problem is the way you're doing it, okay? Last week, no, in fact, let's go 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, Arn Anderson came out with Ric Flair's son, and the son was the star of the segment. And then after that, Ric Flair appears out of nowhere and doesn't really say anything and doesn't do much. Last week, Bruce MacArthur is the star of the segment. He's the one leading it. He's the one that is at the front doing all the talking. And this week, you have the mayor, who's the star of the segment. She comes out first and introduces the baseball players. Oh, and by the way, Ric Flair's here as well. And then Ric Flair, he's just standing at the back. And you're right, he has the vibe of, I'm the bully's best friend. I'm hanging around at the back. What you needed in all of these things, right, was Ric Flair come out and introduce his son, right? Last week, you needed Ric Flair to come out and try and enter the building. And when Bischoff says, no, you're not allowed to, Ric Flair says, well, actually, I can, because introducing Bruce MacArthur, and then he can step out of the limo. So Ric Flair introduces him. So Ric Flair looks like he's the one who's like, oh, no, I'm the main character. I'm being smart, right? He should have come out this week. Woo, Mean Gene, I'm here to cut a 2-minute promo, and I'm here to introduce my friend, the mayor. And I'm here to also introduce my 2 friends, the baseball players. Because I'm special, I'm Ric Flair, right? But because they're doing it the opposite way around, where these characters are introducing him, he feels like a secondary thought. He just feels like the best friend that we shouldn't care about. All these other people actually do have power and influence, and he's just someone that's hanging around them, which makes him feel like a massive loser. They needed him to introduce these friends of his so that he feels, you know what I mean? Isn't that, if you did that, wouldn't these segments work 100 times better?
100%. I just this week was like the catalyst for me of where I was like, Jesus Christ, like this whole thing has been a fucking catastrophe.
Yeah.
I think every week I've known it, but like this week was like the catalyst of like, Jesus Christ, like this is terrible. You know what I mean?
I don't even think this story's worth telling anyway. It's not a great story. I understand you might want to mix it up on the wrestling thing, but really the better story would be if Ric Flair lost all of his influence and power, and all he's got left are his fists. You know what I mean? Like this kind of, he used to have all this, and now he's left with he's going to kick Eric Bischoff's ass. That'd be it. But if you're going to do the story of he's got friends and influence and stuff, and he's going to show that off, he needs to be the driving force behind it.
The bad boys of wrestling, testing competition, win the war, that's their mission.
Match number 8 is the NWO Hollywood of Stevie Ray, Scott Norton, and Scott Hall versus the Wolfpack of Conan, Luger, and Nash. We'll start off with the NWO Hollywood. They come out. Scott Hall is sort of lagging behind, but he's on his way out. Scott Norton looks like a fucking superstar.
Stevie Ray's here, which didn't fill me with happiness, but he's fine. I do like his ring gear for the NWO because it's similar to his Harlem Heat look, but it's all black and white and NWO-ish. And Scott Norton's here, who's the IWGP champion. This is a real turnaround because back in '98, him being the IWGP champion on Nitro isn't a big deal at all. No one cares. And it's because WCW and New Japan have this working relationship. It's just he's their champion. He's like the world champion. He's like their Hulk Hogan, essentially. And he's wandering down there with this belt. And it's weird because, in 5 years' time, WWE doesn't, they're for a long period of time, there's no mention of any other companies in other companies, you know what I mean? And then nowadays, it's all the bloody time. They've opened the door to it.
And it's a great belt. Lovely belt. Yeah. Probably because it's reminiscent of the WCW World Heavyweight title, but with sort of a slightly different design, but it is similar.
I'm slightly surprised it fits around his waist because Scott Norton is a barrel of a man, not in a bad way, but he's huge, and he's that kind of classic strongman shape. You know, when you sort of see men at the circus and they've got the big handlebar moustache and they're just like, you know, squares.
He's that sort of muscly where like don't get me wrong, if you met someone who looked like Lex Luger and he was starting on you, you would be like intimidated. But I'd be a lot less intimidated if someone built like Lex Luger was starting on me than if someone built like Scott Norton was starting on me. If someone built Scott Norton was starting on me, I'd be like, oh my God, this guy's going to fucking kill me.
Yeah. Lex Luger's built for show. Scott Norton's built to go. That's what it is, isn't it? But yeah, so they all come out. Scott Norton's great. And then the Wolfpack come out, who is Kevin Nash, Lex Luger, Conan, but Kevin Nash is nowhere to be seen. Conan comes out. There's huge pyro. There's huge pop. Lex Luger comes out and he's immediately looking concerned, looking back to the gangway because Kevin Nash isn't there. Luger's a decent actor. Actually, I'm not saying you'd want to put him in a play. You know, I'm not saying you'd want him, you know, put him in a movie or anything. But in terms of just his facials and getting it across to his body language, like, it's very clear what you're meant to be understanding here of, I'm worried about someone. And not this kind of theatrical, where is this person? You know, like some people might do. Like, it's quite understated, like he was in the match with Scott Hall. Yeah, I'm quite impressed with Lex Luger, to be honest. It does get a bit silly because he's standing there like Conan's very much matter of fact. Let's get to the ring and win this match, and Luger's hanging around the gangway looking at the pyro for probably a bit too long. Because at one point I forgot what he was like. No, I didn't forget, but he's doing it for so long that at some point I just went. It looks like he's staring gormlessly at the pyro rather than he went for his friend. He was just. It looks like he's just standing there like, oh, sparkles. What is this? Like, what's going on? Oh, that's a loud explosion. And then, but then they go to the ring, and where is Kevin Nash? Well, he's in the back, stumbling around because he's pissed, as well.
Yeah, and they don't rush this like some of the other, like they do give this time to breathe. Like he staggers out. They actually film him drop his drink. Like they literally film him like fall over and sort of drop his drink, pick it back up, walk all the way back into the dressing room, get more booze, and then walk all the way back out again. Like they don't rush the whole situation. Like the other guys must have been stood in the ring for ages waiting for him. It must have felt like an eternity.
But yeah, so he comes stumbling out. Kevin Nash he does a good drunk act, I have to say. When Kevin Nash comes out, sort of after the match has started and everyone's paying attention to the ring, Kevin Nash comes out to no music, stumbling out, you know, not playing to the crowd or anything, and the crowd go mental. The crowd are so happy to see Kevin Nash there.
Tag team union they formed that truly were the greatest tag team in our sport. For the months they dominated. Fans, we are shocked at what we're seeing here. And meanwhile, it's a 3-on-2. I can only think that he is trying to get to the ring area. And meanwhile, it's going to be Conan and Luger. Well, here's the eruption. Obviously, he has made his way to the entryway. Look, Luger and Conan cannot believe what they're seeing.
But yeah, Kevin Nash comes out and he's getting a decent reaction. And then he joins the ring, and that's where the match begins. And they're very much trying to keep Nash and Hall away from it and everything else. And the match starts, and it starts off with Conan and Stevie Ray in the ring, and it's fine. You know, it's perfectly good. The match heats up when Lex Luger and Norton get in the ring,
and they're fucking banging together, man.
Yeah, they have real chemistry together. Lex Luger just starts. Like, I think Norton throws him into the corner. Luger bounces out the way. He hits a little hip toss on him that looks great. He starts clotheslining Norton. Norton's bumping for Luger like no one's business. Like,
I was gonna say, when he hits the forearm shiver, man, like he literally like you don't really catch it because of the camera angle. But if you go back and watch it, when you catch the end of his bump, he's almost done a Rikishi bump. He's almost flipped over. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Scott Norton, 380-pound Scott Norton, is flying all over the place to sell for Lex Luger.
I mean, this is the thing as well. Like, when people talk about Lex Luger, like, if you're Scott Norton, the fact that you are willing to bounce this much for Lex Luger, like, and actually, I don't know if that's fair even, because Lex Luger, I know people slag off Lex Luger now. He was such a huge part of wrestling throughout the 90s. I mean, even the 80s, but like especially the 90s, like where he went to WWF, then he left and went back to WCW, and like, but clearly, even in '98, where he's just a member of the Wolfpack, like the fact that he's getting in the ring and Scott Norton's like, yeah, I'll bump like a bitch for you. I mean, if you're just looking at the fight between Norton and Luger here, in kayfabe, Luger's about to torture rack him and win against the IWGP World Champion. That's what's about to happen until Stevie Ray like reaches over and grabs Lex Luger, because Luger's doing all these moves, hits all his clotheslines, flying forearm, calls for the torture rack. He's about to do it until Stevie Ray like grabs him or lunges for him, which allows Norton to get to hit Luger with his own brutal looking clothesline. So he's looking. I mean, Luger looks great. I'd like to see Luger Norton in a match. To be honest, like I'm sure they must have had one at some point. I might have to look for it, because if it's like this, even if it's like 5 minutes, just power move after power move, I'd sign me up for that. This was great. But then after they get control again, they just beat up Lex Luger, just getting the heat on Luger the whole time. Nash and Hall are still on the outside, kind of leaning in, trying to get each other's attention and, all that stuff. And then it all winds up with, after a few minutes, Luger and Norton hit a big double clothesline, both go to their corners, at which point they both tag in their respective drunks.
Lex Luger trying to make a tag, and Conan reaching out. Scott Hall reaching out, trying to make a tag, but who got it? Stevie Ray? No, Scott Hall got it. And Kevin Nash got it.
Hall and Nash come in, and the crowd cheer like no one's business. I can't think of another time this happened ever in wrestling. Like, over guys who are also now drunk. Like, this is so novel. We're like, oh, what the hell's going to happen here? They both get in, and immediately they just start laughing at each other, like like good old friends, and they're pissed.
And then the crowd react to everything. So they do the too sweet sign, the crowd pop. They do the linking arms, drinking, the crowd pop. Yeah. And then Scott turns back to his team. And as he's turning back, like Nash, just the perfect sort of halfway house between over the top wrestling pantomime and too subtle. And he just lifts his cup up 9 feet in the air, tips it upside down, shows that it's empty, flicks his wrist, throws it over his shoulder, and then that's it. Like, he's fucking, he's like a coiled spring waiting for Scott Hall to turn back round.
And you're right, the crowd go wild because he turns the cup over, there's nothing in it. Immediately everyone clicks and goes, it's not actually drinking.
Look at this. He looks pretty darn good to me. Now it's last call. Kevin Nash.
100% healthy.
Boy, you're not kidding it. It's like a pinball machine out there.
And Scott Hall, 100 proof healthy.
It was so well done where you went, I totally get what he's doing here.
And I think you have, and then you have the awesome sort of payoff to it where Hall turns around, eats the big boot, cup of booze goes everywhere, and then he gets pinballed around by the entire Wolfpack as they take turns hitting him, and then he does the old drunkard pratfall spot, fall out of the middle, fall between the ropes, and you get your feet caught. I personally think the Kevin Nash pretending to be drunk thing is up there at this period of time as like a classic Nitro moment.
Stevie Ray still annoys me. At one point in this match, they call him the self-professed enforcer of the 90s. And I understand wanting to use the term enforcer. Obviously, Arn Anderson used it, and now he's retired, so you might want to have that passed on to someone else as a good moniker. It sounds cool. The enforcer Arn Anderson sounds cooler than the enforcer Stevie Ray, because of just the alliteration of it. But however, I understand you might want to use it, but Stevie Ray standing in there with Scott Norton. Like, if anyone's the enforcer of the NWO, it's Scott Norton. It isn't Stevie Ray. I understand you want to try and do something with Stevie Ray. I get it. Like, he's Booker T's brother, and Booker T's an absolute star. Like, it's obvious he's going to be a star. And so you try and want to do the same thing with his brother, but there's a ceiling to Stevie Ray, and this isn't
The biggest icon in wrestling.
Michael Buffer comes out, and I went, "What the fuck?" Right? So
Yeah.
Michael Buffer comes out because the main event, the official main event of this Monday Nitro, is Hollywood Hogan versus Horace.
Yeah. Which they did mention in the build-up of Hulk Hogan's going to be facing his nephew Horace.
I just didn't think it'd be the main event.
No. And Michael Buffer starts calling it, and then Hogan comes out first, and I was like, "What the hell? What is Horace getting main billing? What the?" Thankfully, that isn't what happened.
I can tell you exactly why, because I'll tell you what, mate. When I first realised what was going on, I thought, "Oh my god, am I going to get to hear Michael Buffer try and announce Horace to the ring? What's he going to say?" That's clearly why Hulk Hogan came out first, because what the fuck are you going to say about Horace?
Well,
this
yeah,
man is bald and has been in the flock and has never won a match on WCW television.
But no, so Hogan comes out and he immediately stops Michael Buffer and says, what does he say? Something like, "Get your LA haircut out of here," or something. It's, he's just like, "Get out of my ring. We're not doing this. This is all nonsense. I'm not allowing this to happen. Horace, get out here. Like, we're not having a match. Horace, get out here," basically.
Pay close attention. You people jumped the gun. The announcer said Hollywood's gonna turn on Horace. Well, Horace, get out here. Get Horace out here right now.
And out comes Horace without any music. Everyone shrugs because who gives a crap. And I'll be honest, I thought this segment worked okay. But so out comes Horace, and Hogan starts talking about Horace, and he basically says, "What's your name?" "Horace Hogan."
No. You're making it too good, right? So this is why it was so good, because he says, "Tell everyone here what your name is."
I'm Horace.
He goes, No, brother, shoot with this thing and tell everyone what your real name is." And he goes,
"Wait a minute. Shoot with this thing and tell the world what your real name is." "I'm Horace Hogan."
"Well, I'm Horace Hogan." If he was told, deliver these lines like an imbecile, he nailed it.
Yeah, well, so Hogan then says, I say Hogan, Hulk. He then says, for those of you who understand this, or do you understand what we're telling you here? I've written this down. I'm going to try. So his dad is my brother. My brother was his father. His dead father, my bread, blood.
My brother was his father. His dead father, my bread. My blood, God rest his soul.
My bread, blood gone.
His dead father, my bread. Blood. And then he says, right, so basically he acknowledges that Horace is his nephew. And then he calls out the NWO. NWO, get out here. And he calls them out, Giant, Vincent, Scott, Brian, all of them, you come out, okay? And the NWO come out, and their music doesn't play, but it's just a solitary NWO. What I will say is Giant is a pro here, because they all get in the ring, and Vincent stands smack bang on the hard camera in front of the Hogans, and you see Giant grab him and just pull him back away so that he's not blocking the hard camera shot.
I didn't see that.
No, but he does this. Vincent stands smack bang in front of him, and you see Giant just reach forward and pull him and be like, "You can't stand there, mate." Like the hard camera is trying to cover this.
This part was just the NWO were there, and he just went on and on about you're my. He kept saying my dead brother, my dead brother's son, but it got too much. You could have taken 90 seconds off this and put it somewhere else just to give something a bit of time to breathe after, instead of going a quick hard cut away to get to this next thing.
Maybe.
Just
I'm not as hard on it as you. I thought it was all right. I thought it was paced decently. I didn't mind it. They were trying to hammer home the fact that Horace was going to join in the NWO, and then obviously he turns on Horace and punches him. I didn't feel it was that bad, the pacing of it. So that's basically what happens. They turn on Horace. I did quite like the way that all of the other NWO members didn't join in.
I really enjoyed it. After he started the attack, there was a lot of this that I thought was really, really good. I thought the attack was okay. Like Hulk Hogan did his punches. It's hard to make Hulk Hogan's punches look vicious. But he did as good a job as he could. He did the whole weightlifting belt, the weightlifting belt whipping. And I tell you what, mate, he smashed him with his fucking chair. Did he blade or did he get busted open hard way? I think he just hard weighed him.
I don't know.
Fucking smashed him with that chair, bro.
Oh, he's out of control now.
His dead brother's son.
This human being is worthless. This is the lowest form of life you'll ever see.
And this is on. He's got it. Oh!
That's his nephew.
And I tell you what, considering the Giant doesn't give a fuck anymore and wants to go home, out of all of the NWO guys, did you see how he was selling this?
Yeah.
After Horace rolled out of the ring, he was like bending over, touching the blood, like really looking at the camera and like looking at the blood on his hand, like. And when Hogan was like hitting him and stuff, like Giant was kind of almost going, "That's enough, man. Like it's fine. Like just leave it." So
that's what I mean. I thought it was quite like, usually the NWO is just, we're going to beat this guy up and that's it.
Yeah.
The way they were trying to sell this was Hogan's doing this to his blood, right? He's doing this to his bread, right? And the whole reason, like, and the whole point that he's trying to get across is, if I'm willing to do this to Horace, who I love, he's not even saying he doesn't like. He's like, no, I do love him. He's my nephew. I love him. He's my bread. The fact that he's doing that and he's still willing to do it, imagine what he's going to do to the Warrior, who he hates. That's actually a really cool idea. And actually, the fact that all the other NWO members were like, Jesus Christ, can you stop now? You're killing the guy, and selling it like that. And when they start wheeling Horace away on the stretcher, and you just hear Hogan, he sees it and he yells,
"Don't help him!"
Oh, he's lost it.
I'm thinking of the mind games going on. They had medical help out for this man, and Hogan
threw him up the
I'm
stretcher.
gonna make you crawl in Halloween Havoc.
And then he goes outside and pushes the stretcher over. Like, no, don't help this guy. Like, I was like, okay, this is like, it was different enough as an NWO beatdown. I thought it was, it got me invested with it. I liked it a lot.
The announcers are going, Hogan has lost it. Like, he's completely lost his mind. But I tell you what, he ended this promo with a really good line, an uncharacteristically coherent and punchy and soundbitey line for Hulk Hogan.
Because this time, it's no Mr. Good Guy Hulkamaniac. You better start training. You better start saying your prayers. And you better start eating your vitamins. Because, Warrior, you are mine at Halloween Havoc. You're mine!
Over the end of the promo, he's throwing the mic down. The camera's sort of panning out. The announcers are starting to talk. You see him push the Giant. And I'll tell you what, the crowd went, "Ooh." And I went, "Oh, it's a shame, really, isn't it, that he's leaving in a few months, because, he is actually like a mega draw." And you guys are just letting him go.
I would say the Big Show going was probably on the same level. And again, these guys were all mid-carders as well. But when the Radicals went as a group,
yeah,
it had that really felt like, oh shit, that's a real coup, where they've got all of them.
Yeah.
Big Show had that feeling when he turned up and he was like, "Oh, they've got the Giant, man, like that's a big deal." But yeah, so this segment I enjoyed it, and then Warrior comes out with a baseball bat. Hogan leaves the ring. Warrior beats up all the NWO with a baseball bat, but he doesn't just keep hitting them with a baseball. I mean, he does hit them with a bat, but he keeps doing this thing where he bounces them off the ropes and then sort of clotheslines them with a bat. Hogan starts saying, "Put the bat down, Warrior, and I'll basically get in the ring and fight you."
Yeah.
And then as Warrior's got all his attention on Hogan, the Giant comes up and headbutts Warrior in the back of the head and then chokeslams him, which Warrior sells for, by the way. Like, he's down. Like, he doesn't get beaten up with a baseball bat or anything. He just gets one headbutt and a chokeslam, and he's down for a couple of minutes, which might not sound a lot, but the fact that this guy's been booked as kind of a, badass, can take anything. Well, I don't know if he has been, having said that, because what's he actually taken move-wise? Probably not a lot. So actually, maybe he's not. Maybe he is just a big old pussy, and this is just the first time we've seen it.
Giant is chokeslamming Warrior. Hogan screams at the top of his voice,
Clutches the Warrior of the chokeslam.
And then they proceed to spend the next 5 minutes leg dropping him and talking trash and beating the fuck out of him. It made me laugh.
I have to say, I did like the line "bury the Warrior." For some reason, that's in my brain. Like, because when I heard him say it, I went, "Oh yeah!" So I don't know why that's stuck in my brain. But yeah, and then he starts just trash talking him, how he's going to beat him at Halloween Havoc, hits him with a couple of leg drops, spray paints NW on him. And it's kind of set up like, well, surely Warrior's going to win at Halloween Havoc then, because, go home show and he's been put in his place. But obviously that doesn't happen. Spoiler alert of Halloween Havoc, that doesn't happen. And then the NWO leave. And as they're leaving, you see Warrior in the ring shaking his fists like he's about to wake up. So he's obviously not that badly hurt, and So this is what I was going to talk about actually. I don't know if they've intended this to be the storyline, right? But basically, the way they've booked this, it feels more and more like over the weeks, Hollywood Hogan's genuinely realised that the Warrior isn't very scary, and it is all just smoke and mirrors. What he realises that the more he just starts winning the feud. So the feud starts, and the Warrior comes back. So yeah, Hogan's terrified of the Warrior, and then he kidnaps the disciple, and he appears in mirrors, and smoke appears, and all that stuff, right? And Hogan is, obviously he's, I can beat you up or whatever, but then he's actually genuinely scared of him, kind of thing. Like, it's all, bravado from Hogan, but he is genuinely terrified of the Warrior. But the last 2 weeks, right, he was in a tag match against the Warrior, and the way the Warrior didn't really stand tall at the end of that, because the NWO start beating him up, and then when Smoke comes in the ring, they go, right, get him out of the ring, throw him out. And they do that. And then it's really embarrassing because the Warrior's just standing there like, oh, yeah, I can't disappear because I haven't got my smoke. And it's almost like that moment where Hogan went, oh, yeah, this guy's a fucking pussy. It is all just smoke and mirrors. I can win this feud. And so this week, he's just like, yeah, come on, Warrior. I'm not scared of you. Look, I've beaten up my nephew. I'll do the same to you. And then when he does come out, this is the first time he's like, yeah, like he's kicked the shit out of the Warrior. It's almost like the more, like, it's like in a horror movie, the more you learn about the villain, the less scared you are of it, because, it turns out we can beat this demonic entity if we have some holy water and we say his name backwards. As soon as you know that, he's not scary anymore. And it's like the more that it's gone on, it's like Hogan has gone like, oh yeah, this guy actually is just that loser from the WWF from the 90s and all this stuff, and he's talking nonsense again, is he? Okay, Warrior. All right. I mean, like, it's just the feeling I get in this feud. Like, today, I didn't ever think this week, I didn't get the vibe that Hogan was actually scared of Warrior. And this was just like bravado and whatever. This just felt like Hogan was like, yeah, actually, I'm sort of done with you and this is nonsense. And I am going to kick your ass.
The bad boys of wrestling, testing competition, win the war, that's their mission.
The actual main event of the evening was Bret Hart coming out.
Bret Hart comes out to no music again.
Yeah.
There's such weird inconsistency with Bret Hart and whether or not he has music. I don't know. It's just weird how he doesn't come out to him. He just strolls out. But yeah, Bret Hart comes out and initially it's just a promo where he says basically Hulk Hogan and what he's just done by calling out the Warrior has inspired him, and seeing what he's done in the ring where beat him up has inspired him to basically call out Sting. But he does have a couple of good lines here, Bret Hart. The first one is,
week after week, it seems like I get little or no respect from you fans.
You get what you earn around here.
And by the way, I want to say hi to my one little fan out there. Hello, Smokey, my cat.
Why does he think that's a cool thing to say? He wants to say hello to his one fan, Smokey the cat. That doesn't get you heat. That doesn't make fans hate you. It doesn't make them like you. It's just a weird line. I don't know what he's going for. I know the whole point is he's trying to say I don't have any fans, no one likes me and respects me. Say that. Don't bring your cat into it. It doesn't work. I mean, I liked it. I laughed, but still. And then the second one that I liked was when he talks about Sting. The stupidest there is, the stupidest there was, and the stupidest there ever will be.
Face it, he's not the best there is, the best there was, or the best there ever will be. In fact, he's the stupidest there ever was, the stupidest there ever is, and the stupidest that there ever will be. And I just wish that he would suck it up and get the guts to come out here.
Well, it's gut check time at the Target Center.
But yeah, so he does his stupidest there ever is, was, and will be line. And then here comes Sting. This is the first time that you can really, really see the goatee growing in.
Yeah.
And it's weird, isn't it weird, that the goatee look, which has been immortalized in video games, it's kind of like how people, it's almost like how
how people remember Wolfpack Sting.
Yeah, like people remember Wolfpack Sting as having this weird little black goatee. And actually it was for one match at the pay-per-view. That was it. Yeah. That was the only time he ever looked like that.
Yeah, but, because even this one, you can tell he's got the goatee, but it's not obvious. Like keep in mind that Halloween Havoc's only 6 days after this. Here, it was a little while till I looked and went, oh no, yeah, he's got his goatee's coming through, because it wasn't obvious with the red paint. It's when he goes to Halloween Havoc and he paints over it in black that you go, oh, goatee Sting. This is weird.
So Sting comes out and basically he gets in the ring. There's no exchange verbally. Sting just gets in the ring as he's taking his jacket off, and he kind of does this weird thing where he kind of pushes his jacket into Bret Hart, and then Bret Hart just sort of puts it down, and then they just stand there for a split second, and then he hits him. I don't know if it was meant to like throw his jacket at him or something, but he kind of just goes like that, and then Bret Hart just sort of stands there holding his jacket, and then Sting punches him in the face. It's very strange. Yeah, so basically this next 5 minutes odd is Sting just beating the shit out of Bret Hart. Just following him around the ring, punching and kicking the shit out of him. He does an inverted atomic drop, which is very Sting. Beats up Bret on the outside, gets back in the ring, knocks him down again.
Hart, go ahead, Mike.
Sting right in the face of Bret Hart.
Blocked it and nailed him.
Oh, and then Sting makes a cover and gets a 2 count. And then Tony Schiavone immediately calls out his bad psychology. I was like, thanks, Tony.
That he is
the best there is,
the best there was, and possibly one of the best there ever will be. Covers. I'm really surprised there was any attempt at a cover there.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
Let's move on without drawing too much attention to it, shall we? Bret takes over when Sting goes for a Vader bomb, and Bret gets his knees up.
Yep.
But he's actually only... I was actually surprised by how quickly it turned back around. Like, he's only in control for, like, maybe 30 seconds. Like, if that. Like, very briefly, Bret Hart beats Sting up for a very little bit. Sting basically immediately counters something, knocks him down, and then puts him in the Scorpion Deathlock.
Yes.
And this is another one of those things that I will remember until the day I die. Even if every record of wrestling was to be erased from the earth, I will not forget this match.
This is the thing. This is the thing with the Sting and Bret Hart feud. There are 5 or 6 moments in this feud that I won't ever forget. It's why I think it's one of WCW's most underrated ones. It's got 5 or 6 moments throughout this feud that I just will remember forever. But yeah, there are so many good moments in this, and this is one of them. So basically, Sting gets Bret Hart in the Scorpion Deathlock right by the ropes. Bret Hart immediately grabs the rope, and the ref says, "Right, Sting, let go of the hold. He's got the ropes." And Sting says,
"This is the case, but Sting doesn't give a darn." He said it.
I'm not going to go, he says.
You might as well go get help. I'm not going to let go.
It's so good. The way Sting says this, it's not like he looks at the ref and goes, "I refuse to let go. I'm not letting go. He deserves this." It's so nonchalant. He's just like, "No, I'm not letting go." It's like a petulant. It'd be like if it's like a kid at school and like the teacher tried to send him out and the kid just went, "No, I'm not going out." What can you do? Like, you have to. "No, I'm not doing that." And then what happens immediately? A whole bunch of referees come down. They're all trying to make Sting break the hold. They're grabbing him. They're yanking on him. They're desperately trying to get Sting to break the Scorpion Deathlock, and he's not doing it. And it's such a cool image that Sting's just there. And then, of course, Vincent and Stevie Ray come in to try and break the hold. And this was even cooler. I forgot about this bit, actually. They come in the ring and they just start whacking Sting, like pummeling him. And he still isn't breaking, and he's not even reacting. He's just not breaking the hold. And I was like, that's so cool. He's just like, "No, you can hit me as much as you want. I'm not doing it." And then eventually, after maybe 3 or 4 seconds, he does. And then he fights off Stevie Ray and Vincent, low blows him, hits a Scorpion Death Drop. But yeah, it looks so cool. I don't know how long. It's probably not even that long. He probably only has him maybe in the hold for, what, a minute? 90 seconds, maybe?
I will just say as well, after they finally get Sting off of him and he low blows him and beats him up, Bret Hart is selling this so well.
Yeah, I said. Yeah,
like he's staggering out, and he sort of takes a few steps and then just drops to his knees, and he has to
holding his back,
start crawling. That was so good.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm a big Sting mark, but I honestly believe that whenever he was out of WCW, the whole promotion suffered for it. You know, and this feud leading up to his time off now has been fantastic.
Yeah. Seeing as well, Sting, I think at this point in time, obviously he's about to take like 6 months off. Spoiler alert for Halloween Havoc if you think he might win anyone, but he's about to have like 6 months off. At this point in time, I think he's basically broken. I don't mean injured, but I mean like he's in a really dark place. The fact he's still putting as much effort as he is, to be honest, is a hell of a compliment to him. Because if you are so bad, where, I mean, he goes off and this is when he becomes like a born-again Christian and like finds God and, you know, repents for all the bad stuff he's ever done or whatever it is. The fact you're still putting in this much effort, because a lot of people would have just, you know, "I don't care. I can't," you know what I mean? So good on him. And yeah, I mean, when he comes back, he's on fire again immediately because everyone loves Sting.
We do have to get out of here. We're out of time.
So yeah, we're out of time for today, and that's the end of the show. John, what did you think of this Nitro? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. What did you reckon?
I'm going to say thumbs up. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I watched it twice, and both times I was quite happily sitting there watching it, enjoying it. So thumbs up.
Fantastic. Yeah, I agree. There were at least 2 standout segments that were, you know, classic Nitro segments that I'll never forget, both on this show. Probably the first Nitro that we've watched where the first hour was actually worth watching. I thought the opener with Saturn and Chaos was fun. And then, of course, you got a couple of matches that you would probably consider dream matches looking back on them. You've got Jericho versus Diamond Dallas Page for the television title, and you've got Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Billy Kidman. So, yeah, there's literally nothing about this show that I disliked. Most of it I really enjoyed. So, yeah, massive thumbs up. And I think as a go-home show, if it was 98, I think I'd be quite looking forward to watching this pay-per-view.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, thanks for joining us, John, and offering your opinion on this show.
Anytime. Look forward to pay-per-view.